Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 335. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have back with us the internationally acclaimed and award-winning filmmaker, Asif Akbar. Asif.
Hey, Barney, thank you for having me back on.
Right. I mean, before we went live, we were talking about, like, you're back on way back in episode 67. Back, I think it was around almost late 2021. And now we're here, 2024, episode 335. And it's been a minute. And since then, you were on last time talking about your movie, The Commando, that came out. And now, since then, you've had Mojave Diamonds, MR9, Do or Die, which got great reviews, Clown Motel, and you're here now to talk about your latest film, Skeletons in the Closet?
Yes, well, that just released this past weekend on Shudder and AMC Plus, and
Nice.
that movie was actually interesting enough. Shot back in 2021, I believe, in April of 2021, and
Wow.
or no, I'm sorry, I have so many movies, it's kind of mixed. Sorry, Clown Motel, Curse of the Clown Motel, that was shot in April 2021. This one was shot March, April of 2022.
Okay.
It's interesting. They're both kind of coming out at the same time. Curse of the Clown Motel, I just saw it released in theaters overseas in the Middle East, all over the Middle East. It's playing in theatrical right now. And Skeletons in the Closet also released theatrically in the Middle East last week. So that's also playing in some theaters in the Middle East. So they're both kind of playing at the same time internationally. And I heard today that they're going to be getting ready to release The Curse of the Clown Motel domestically coming up in the next couple months, I guess. And we have MR9 that released theatrically last August, but that was
Right.
only Bangladesh and North America with limited theatrical. Now we have a new edit of that, kind of like a director's cut, new version that's going to be going out worldwide in the mass distribution coming up end of April. And then I'm in post production right now with Boneyard that's scheduled to come out sometime later this year, I believe.
Right. That's amazing, Asif. No, one question that some of the folks that might be asking this question is, like, you sometimes you'll see something that's like, this is a director's cut, so the question would come out was like, well, how come the first cut wasn't the director's cut? Who was the one that actually had the final say to, like, then cut the original film, and then what was to be the purpose of having a director's cut later?
That's a really good question because it's something that's very common in the industry that most times the audience doesn't think about. But when we deliver a film to a distributor, there's many factors involved. It's not just the director's movie and the director's vision. There's a director's cut, and then there's a producer's cut, there's a distributor's
Oh,
cut. So there's a lot of notes that come in, and a lot of factors we have to consider for certain territories and certain distributors. And so we end up sometimes getting multiple versions, but usually when we do the master delivery, we'll have a locked picture that everyone kind of signs off on, and then we go ahead and do all the bells and whistles and finish post and deliver that. In this case, it was a little of a unique situation with MR9 compared to some of my other films where we have the distributors all set to go, and then we know a delivery deadline, and we know what we need to deliver to who, and we do that. In MR9's case, we've had multiple distributors that were, piecemealed. Like, we had a theatrical distributor, we had, certain foreign distributors that needed certain things. And because it's an international film, that's also based on a long running book series, the Masudrana book series. there were different elements that we had to make sure we incorporated for different territories and the different
Mm,
audiences. But ultimately, the first release that we did was more of like a producers slash distributors theatrical cut that catered towards more of the Bangladeshi South Asian audiences, um,
okay.
and it was a little bit more of an extended cut. Then we cut it down, trimmed some of the fat, and you know, fixed up some of the VFX and certain things that we were kind of rushed into doing the first time around because we had to release it within a certain time. But now, we were able to fix a lot of those things and properly, take the time to get it ready for the mass audience.
The Skeletons in the Closet, you didn't write that one, you directed that one, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was one of the producers, and I ended up directing it. And the writer, there were multiple writers on there, and the story was conceived by Al Bravo, who I've collaborated with on many other films. And Al actually had this story and script circulating for several years now. I was attached on it 6, 7 years ago, and then we did other projects that ended up happening, and then it kind of ended up coming full circle later, for many different reasons. But then we ended up, getting it made when the timing was right. It's, every project, it's all about the right timing of, all the elements falling into place for it to happen.
Hmm. And how is it different? How is it different directing a product that you wrote as compared to directing something that somebody else wrote?
At the end of the day, when I direct a script, whether it's mine or someone else's, I always get very involved, hands-on. So, you have to be passionate for the story you're telling and believe in that story, or at least acquire enough knowledge to be able to have the interest to, showcase that vision and bring it to the screen. You really have to fall in love with that concept and the story. So whenever I get someone else's script, I try to make it my own as much as possible. And obviously, as a director, I have a lot of contributions to you know how the final film is being executed for screen. And then obviously, I have my vision, and during the execution part of it all, it's a collaborative effort from the
Right.
entire crew and team. And so a lot of factors come into play when we shoot the film, and then when we're in the post-production phase. um, certain times, we don't have um, the resources or the time, I would say, in most cases, when you're up against a delivery deadline. Round two or take two can always be better, and you can always perfect things with more time. But sometimes, in the past, with certain films, we've had time limits and delivery deadlines that compromised us in maybe finalizing the VFX the way we wanted it to be, or do more with the music. And it's mainly timing that comes down to being a challenge at the end of the day, to really execute it the way it was on the script. And the thing is, it's never really translated on screen 100% from script. You always have to come up with plan, B, C, and D if plan A doesn't work. So the script is basically a guideline. At the end of the day,
Mm,
when we're shooting the movie on the spot, on location, on set, we have to rewrite the script a lot of times, and so that's mainly in my hands and other producers and people that are there. We collaborate, even with actors, and sometimes you end up having a different movie than what you started off with in the script.
mm.
So I would say,
And
it's definitely a collaborative process.
what are some of the things that you're able to learn as a director while working during COVID that you've been able to implement now?
Well, the time management, the one thing I was
Yeah.
saying earlier is the timing is always a challenge.
Yeah.
We sense to usually it's limited budget or limited time or both, and then it becomes even more challenging. But the one of the things I could say I got experience wise the most filming during COVID is being able to definitely manage the time with the schedule and eh, you know be put against a say film schedule that we have to now do in 12 days instead of 18 days, and being able to figure out ways to manage and utilize the time we have to basically um, expand that. And so, like for example, when we were doing Commando, um, we had like a 10-day schedule, which
Right.
originally that movie was supposed to have an 18-day schedule, and then we ended up with pickups and everything doing it I think in 11 or 12 days. But just being able to adapt to that situation and taking something that would take 18 days and making it in 10, 12, and cutting down the schedule, as you're going. Like a lot of these films we shot during the pandemic or during COVID, where we had COVID protocols. And if, we get shut down, then that affects the entire movie. That's happened on, I think, on Mojave Diamonds, we were shut down on the last week and we had to come back like a month later and shoot.
Oh, wow.
So
Right.
the risk factors go up. So sometimes, you have to cut the schedule down, like with a day or two's notice. We had that incident even happen on the Curse of the Clown Motel. Originally it was like 17 days, then we had to cut it down to 14. But on day 12, we realized we had to cut it down. So that's where, again, going back to the scripting, I have to make it my own to be able to adapt to all these circumstances and rewrite the script and rework it to, um, you know, what we have to work with to get the job done at the end of the day and to deliver. Because one thing we have to remember as artists and directors and even actors and crew, we're here to do a job. It's a business, and we have to deliver a product. Sure, it's my vision or the writer's vision, or we're artists and we want to be perfect with our craft. But a lot of times, it's just about the delivery on time, on
Mm.
schedule, on budget, and our hands get tied. So we have to do our job and make sure Plan B and C and D are ready to you know being implemented if Plan A doesn't work, and keep the show going and deliver the
Right.
film within a deadline.
Directors have their own sense of like maybe style or image or visual. What would you say is your trademark, your style or visualizations that you put into your each of your films?
I would say realism. I
Mm.
like to have a lot of realism in my stories and movies and the characters, even the dialogue. You'll notice that I tend to not hold back. I like the characters to speak the way you would in real life, or be put in a situation that we can all relate to in real life. So that's one thing I always try to keep, that touch of realism. Whether I do an action film, horror film, sci-fi, whatever, there's always those elements of real emotions and real humane connections. And at the same time, I like to keep it diverse, project by project. The style, the technical styles of each project is different and caters to what that particular genre or story needs. And I've been blessed to be able to um, have the opportunities to do different genres and different style of films, where I've been careful from early on in my career to not get pigeonholed and boxed into being only a certain style director. I
Right.
don't want people to be able to see my films and say, "Oh, that movie's by Asif Akbar because the last one was like this." I want them to always have something different and even a different look, different style. Um, and if they work, if they continue to work, then hopefully I can keep experimenting also. But at the end of the day, we do have to follow a certain formula. And right now, I'm having a lot of fun being able to do different styles and different genres. Maybe in the future, I'm gonna have to focus on one particular style. But right now, I'm just, always trying to do what I haven't done, before on the next one.
Because you usually some of your films are either action oriented or horror oriented, and you've had a couple films that came out that were separate to that in that genre. Like initially, I think about Ace and the Christmas Miracle. That
Right. Yeah.
kind of like come if you look at your list, that kind of like sticks out as compared to some of your other ones.
Yeah, well, I've always wanted to do a Christmas film and a kids film, and it was one of those things. The opportunity just kind of came, and it was during the pandemic as well, and it's one of those things where I was in a pitch meeting, and um, someone said, "Oh, we need Christmas movies this year, and we need kids Christmas movies or with talking or with cute animals." And then
Yeah.
I had a script at that time from one of my friends that was a talking horse adult comedy. And all of a sudden it clicked in my head. And in the pitch, I just mentioned, "Hey, guys, what about a talking horse kids Christmas movie?" Just like
Mm-hmm.
that. They just all jumped up and they're like, "Hey, let's get it made." And then we talked to the distributors, and which ended up coming out by Grindstone and Lionsgate. And at that time, they needed that content, and so we basically took that talking horse adult comedy script, turned it into a kids' Christmas talking horse movie, and we were up and running in I think less than a month, already shooting the movie, and we got stuck in the middle of the pandemic, so the schedule on that was cut down quite a bit. I think we shot that movie all in like 7 or 8 days in
Oh wow.
California, and we were able to get that done. But that was, a fun movie, fun kids' Christmas movie, and it was definitely a good experience. I've always loved working with animals and kids, and you'll see in most of my movies, I have animals or kids as well, even if they're action or horror.
Right. And so talk to us about your latest film, then, Skeletons in the Closet. What is that film about?
So it's definitely a horror film, but it has different subgenre elements of family drama, and kind of like a psychological, paranormal thriller. It doesn't really have too many of those like traditional, stereotypical jump scares that you expect, like in every 10-minute beats or so. Again, it's going back to some realism and connections with more of a like a wider range, I guess, population where you watch this, and I feel like anyone in any country can kind of relate to this kind of a situation that the characters go through, and also the paranormal aspect of it, where there's not too much of religion involved, but there are some religious elements that are blending in between,
Mm.
different cultures and religions that tie in with like the whole paranormal, spiritual, um, concept of what we're trying to do, and then there's occults, involved in it. So it's a blend of different, horror films and genres that we all kind of, grew up watching, and it's kind of like a throwback to an older classic style ghost story.
Any directors from decades ago that have inspired you on your direction?
Absolutely. I love directors that are also innovators, and that have contributed something in our industry that's being used today, or that's helping us as tools to also, experiment and try out and, invent our own ways of telling stories. So, I mean, any director that's an innovator like James Cameron or Spielberg, and, as far back as even Charlie Chaplin, for his
Mm.
time. So I've always been inspired by those that think outside of the box, and sometimes we have to work our way up to even get to a position as a director or filmmaker, to be able to push the boundaries open and do something new, which we've seen James Cameron do countless times on all his movies. If the studios don't have a camera, he'll go spend 10 years and build a camera and make sure he gets it right. So that's always inspired me. And someone like James Cameron started off doing, Roger Corman films and Piranha 2, and then went to now, doing some of the best movies in the world in history. So I think it's about working your way up with what you have to work with and the team you have to work with, and basically keeping in mind that the sky is the limit here. There are really no boundaries. You just have to kind of work your way up and surround yourself with a team that's willing to level up with you. And that's my goal, is to basically level up in the quality and the kind of projects that I do. And so far, I've been blessed to be able to be able to kind of move up in the
Right.
different films that I've been doing with the cast, the budgets, the distribution, and even the team that I'm working with.
Right. What are some of the skills and knowledges that you've implemented recently in Skeletons in the Closet and also Boneyard that you wished you knew back in 5 years ago?
I would say actually that's a very interesting question, because I've been thinking about that a lot lately, and I would say definitely being able to delegate. Um, to other departments. Before, a lot of filmmakers are like this too. We want to take on as much as we can because it's our story, our vision, and we try to wear multiple hats, which I've done many times over before. But when you go into doing some of the bigger movies and with more professional union crews and everything, you have to be able to delegate and rely on that person or that department to be able to do their job 100%, and you can then focus more on what you need to do and not have to split yourself up in five different ways. So that's been um, something that I've adapted into the last few years, where it's like, okay, I can let this person worry about this and let me worry about this 100%. At the end of the day, I still sign it off, but at least I'm not stressing over it. So I've been able to, I guess, manage that a little better as we've been doing bigger projects.
How is it directing new actors as compared to ones that you've worked with before in the past?
There was always, uh, definitely an established chemistry there with actors that I've already worked with. A lot of times uh, when I write a script, I'll write with that actor in mind already, and then I just go for that actor whether I know them or not. And I usually don't do auditions myself as a director. I'll look at maybe some tapes here and there, but I usually know what that actor's capable of by just interacting with them or talking to them or getting to know them, and then that way I can shape the characters around that, or I can know if they're right or wrong for a character that's already there set. So for me, it's more about you know the personality of that person, and obviously the skills have to be there as an actor. But if you have a general skilled actor, for a director, it's our job to be able to collaborate, work with them, and get them to, act and deliver a performance, close to the vision that we have. So it's about that person having the skill set, general skill set of acting and being able to follow direction, and at the same time being able to contribute creatively, as well as an artist, and of all have the personality to be able to you know, be a team player and work easily.
At what point is something considered pre-production until is it when you still have things to film, or is then all of a sudden post-production is when all the filming is done and it's just the editing piece?
Yeah, I mean, so production is when we're filming, and then post production, usually you have everything filmed, but then during post production, sometimes maybe you find out that you need a shot here and there, or you need to reshoot something. Then you can go back for pickups or reshoots. But it's yeah. But I mean, pre production is up until you get into shooting, and then shooting is production, and then after you're done shooting, when you're assembling, editing, putting everything together, that's the post production side. And then once you're done with post, then you start the delivery to the distributors, and then obviously there's the release and marketing and all of that. So it's a process, definitely different uh, different phases that it has to go
Because I see you have that Zero Sum Game and Father of the Nation. Those are in pre-production now.
through. So Father of the Nation is something that we started a while back doing development on, and we have the script and everything. But again, for timing and many other reasons, that one's kind of shelved at the moment. Zero Sum Game is a film that I'm um, starting to develop right now at the moment. I have the script, something that I wrote, and also there's some other scripts that I'm in development and starting to prep on for hopefully shooting this year.
And so, how does that work? Do you have to publicly publicly announce when you have something in pre-production, or can you keep things
Well, you don't
close to
have
the
to.
vest? And
It's always project basis. You don't have to. It depends on
okay,
who's all involved, what stage it's at, and how it's being packaged, and But
right,
every project we treat differently. But it's not that something that we have to announce.
right. It literally looks like you do 2 movies a year. It looks like.
At least, yeah, I've been blessed to be. It's like yeah, 2 movies a year is ideal. Some years I've had to do 4 or 5, and it gets to be tough. But again, we're in a day and age where content is king, and we don't have enough of it because of all the streamers and everything, which is a good thing. So I
Right.
encourage more and more creators to come, join the pack, and let's just keep, making movies.
How do you find a director if somebody wants to um,
Um,
have a story they
Well,
want to
there's a
tell?
lot of factors involved. Obviously, it took me almost 2 decades to get to where I am.
Yeah.
And like I said, you can't just be a creator, an artist, and director. You have to be a businessman. Treat this like a
Hmm.
business, and learn as much as you can. Be humble, just keep creating content. Don't wait for the opportunity. You have to basically make your own opportunities. Just, make a film with whatever you have. If you have to go crowdfund, if you have to go get favors from friends, or if you have to put in your own money, just make something so you can show something, and then, open more doors, and always,
Right.
make your own opportunities, because in this business, it's one of the most competitive fields, and everyone can make a movie nowadays. You can have a cell phone and make a movie, and so you have to really be a good businessman at the same time and be able to offer the whole package.
Right.
To be commercially, successful, or get that attention from distributors to see, okay, this person has a unique package or unique, work style or whatever it is. You have to be able to just keep it going, and don't
Right.
limit yourself. Don't say, oh, I need to have this budget to do this or that. You have to, at the end of the day, work with what you have and deliver.
Right. Perfect. Well, Asif, if people want to learn more about your work, where's the best place they could go to?
IMDb, a lot of times, my Instagram, Asif Akbar underscore, filmmaker. I update there. My Facebook, I'll update there. But a lot of times, I market like I am now with the new movies, on my social media, and then
Right.
Facebook and Instagram, they're there, but IMDb is usually updating on
Yeah.
if the film is out or not.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Asif. And listen, you're gonna have to come back on when you have Boneyard coming out.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll keep you posted. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
All right. You're